Hi, welcome back to my channel, and hello if you're new here. My name's Molly and I usually do mental health videos, but sometimes I do lifestyle videos instead. If you've read the title, you'll probably know this is quite a difficult video. I don't normally just sit on the couch, but I felt like talking about something like this felt like it needs to be a bit more personal. I don't know. It's not an easy topic, is it? So I'll start by saying that I personally lost my mum to cancer in 2015, and I mean it's not great, is it? If you're it's so I'm gonna try and just talk. I don't want to really edit this much. I just want it to be my true feelings. So yeah, if you're somebody who has recently lost a parent, I know exactly what you're going through. I was 18 when I lost my mum. I am 24 today. Not actually today, it's not my birthday, but I just mean as I'm filming, I'm 24. And I lost my mum to cancer. Now, grief for anybody is difficult. If you're losing a parent, it's even more difficult. And then if you are young, then you've got that on top of it as well. Now, no two people grieve the same, and no two experiences of losing somebody is the same either. Say for example with my mum, she had cancer when I was younger, she got better, and then she got sick again years later, and there wasn't anything they could do at the time. So what I wanted to talk about is my experience briefly, and then just go through some tips that I have learned from my own experiences. Now, this isn't to say that anybody watching this will have the same experiences as me. Like I said, there's no way to grieve, and that's something that I had to learn. But I'm not going to go into too much personal details just because it's on the internet and it's gone out there. But basically, my mum she had cancer. She then got better, and then unfortunately, the way cancer does, in sometimes it came back, and there wasn't really anything they could do. Now, I personally don't think that there is a better way to lose someone. I know a lot of people say that they would rather have the knowledge that they're losing someone because you have time to process it. Other people say that the processing time can make it worse. I don't think it makes it any better if somebody dies unexpectedly or somebody dies and you knew that they were going to die. So either one of those things, if you haven't experienced exactly the same as me, I do think some of these tips I'm going to go through in a minute could still be helpful as well. But with us, there was a point in which we knew that it was not going to be cured, and it became terminal. Now, I think personally, I went through, there was a time period when she was sick, but she wasn't sick as in she didn't look sick. And then there's a time period where she lost the hair. And I don't think you have, the thing is, when you know somebody might die, or somebody's going to die, a lot of the time, or at least I know I did, you kind of almost not plan it in your head, but especially because I've got obviously a lot of mental health problems and I've got OCD, and I would kind of envision in my head how it was going to happen, how I was going to feel, what it was going to be like. And I think because I had done that, part of me completely detached away from the situation. So it was as if it wasn't actually real and it wasn't happening. It was just something I'd thought of in my mind. And then part of me, only a small part, thought, well, I'll be able to deal with this because I've already dealt with it in my mind, if that makes sense. But obviously, dealing with something in your mind and actually experiencing something is not the same thing. And I think, unfortunately, the thing with cancer is that near the end, for a lot of people, the person can go from being that, still that person but sick, to being almost not a person. And that is not in a disrespectful way. I just mean that they are so sick that maybe they're not there, or they're not the same person that they were before, or they can't remember things. And then once you're on, say, a medication, obviously to make them more comfortable, but it's almost like watching the person disappear before they're actually gone, which is difficult, especially when it's a parent, to see that happening. So it was difficult, it was hard. At the time, I was working in retail. I was working at Next, and she was in a hospice at this point, so she ended up in a hospice. The hospice were absolutely amazing. They really were. From my experience, it was Woodland Hospital in Aintree Hospital, and they were really good. They were lovely, really respectful, and I was visiting every day, and I think that's, well, nearly every day, and I think that's why you notice that it can happen so fast. So I was visiting every day. Now, I had an added issue of she wasn't well, and then I was meant to be going for a few days holiday. Now, if anybody knew my mum, she hated wasting money. She really hated wasting money, and she was really ill, but she'd been really ill for, you know, a certain amount of time, and I had made, with family, I spoke with like my older sister and other people, and they had agreed that the best thing would be for me to go. I'd spoken to her a lot about it, and we talked, and she wanted me to go. She was really excited about me going, but at the time when I was meant to be going, she wasn't talking anymore. She wasn't able to. She wasn't really awake, and we had thought that she had longer than she did. Unfortunately, she didn't. And so there was an added guilt, because I had gone away, and unfortunately the night before, it's not easy, but that's what, the reason I'm making this video is because if there's anybody out there in the same position as me or similar, hopefully it'll help them. So just gonna power through. Yes, so she was basically the night before I came home, she passed away, and I wasn't there, and there was an added guilt because of that. Now, so that I found it was difficult, but it didn't help with the dissociation from the situation. I don't know if dissociation is the right word, but the detachment away from the situation. And okay, so what I'm going to do now, I think that's enough of the personal story of what happened. What I'm going to talk about now is my experience afterwards and things that I think can help people who might be going through grief. Now, initially, when I found out, as I said, I was not there. So my sister called me to tell me, and my sister called me to tell me. Now, the reason they called me and told me over the phone was because they'd rang me a few hours before, and the plan, because she'd started to deteriorate, and the plan was that my friend's, at the time's mum, was going to pick me up from the airport and take me straight to the hospital. That's the reason they had to tell me over the phone, because although I know a lot of people think, why didn't they just wait and tell you when you got back? But in that it was the situation that it was that they had to tell me. So I was told, now it's quite blurry, I do remember being told, but I actually went mute, which is a really strange experience. I don't know why or how it happens, but I just couldn't speak at all. I just couldn't speak, and it didn't last very long, but I could not speak. And I don't know now, looking back, if it was because I almost felt like if I spoke, then it made it real. And I've learned that that's quite a normal reaction. And then eventually I started whispering, and it sounds so stupid, but I couldn't speak. But then eventually when I started to speak, it was just whispers. So I would like whisper for a little bit. And I think, to be honest, it was more just shock. And like, as I said before, you plan something in your head so many times, but then when it actually happens and it's real, it's nothing. You could never plan in your head the emotions that you're going to feel when you lose someone. So that's how I initially reacted. Now, I made a lot of mistakes during my grieving process. Now, a lot of people are going to make mistakes. And when I say mistakes, I don't mean I necessarily did something wrong. It's just there's a lot of things that I did that I wouldn't do now. So one of my biggest tips is do not make any big life choices in the first 6 months to 12 months after losing a loved one, because you are not in the right frame of mind to make big life choices. And I made some big life choices that didn't end up very well at all. At the time, I was in a relationship that I'm not going to go into just for privacy reasons for the other person, but it wasn't great. I wasn't happy, and I did end up in that relationship for longer. We ended up moving out, and I should never have moved out. They do say, one of the things they say when you're grieving is to not make a big move, or not to move away or move house during the grieving process. And I definitely understand that now, because I made that decision and I was almost in a manic state for such a long time, and I was making decisions and making choices that I know I wouldn't have made if I'd have sat down and thought about them. But I think the problem was that I was trying to almost create a new life, thinking that each new thing that I did would not cancel out, because obviously you can never cancel out losing someone, but it was almost like I was just trying to go somewhere else, be somewhere else, have another life, a different life, which obviously doesn't work. No matter what you do, you're going to have to face the grief at some point. I think as well, I have always had an issue with crying. I cry a lot, I do cry, but when it's something serious, I really struggle. I remember losing my nan, and I vividly remember, it's probably one of the first memories that I've got that I can visibly remember, which is quite sad really, but there you go. And I remember being told, and my dad sat me down to tell me, and I remember saying, I'm not gonna cry because that would be stupid. And like, I'm not gonna cry because I don't want to be stupid, or I'm not gonna cry. And I think I struggle to express emotions in front of people, and I struggle to deal with emotions. I have got mental health problems, and I've got BPD, and that's one of the things. I'll feel emotions very, very deeply and very strongly, but actually expressing those emotions is not easy, and it can come out in other ways, and it definitely did with grief this time round, and it will happen, and you have to just try to think about things that you're doing. And I know it's not easy, I know it's not hard, and no, I know it is hard, I know it isn't easy. Or say if you are somebody that doesn't usually drink that much and you find yourself drinking a lot, if you start to partake in drugs and you don't usually do that, or you don't do that, or if you start to act out in ways that you wouldn't usually act out, try to speak to someone. Don't let it just progress. I definitely would ask to speak to a counsellor, get in touch with your doctor, try and organise some grief counselling. It's so important when you've lost someone to go through a process, go through something to process it. Another tip I would say is try to be easy on people. And when I say that, it's going to sound weird because you're the person that's lost someone, and obviously you're going to need a lot of support, but try to remember that in normal situations, if you are upset or sad about something, there's usually something that somebody can do to make you feel better, or to help you, or to fix the situation. When somebody's died, there's nothing that anybody can do. It is one of the only things in life that nobody can fix, no matter what they do. So a lot of people won't know what to say, they won't know how to act around you, they won't know what to do. And there might be people who've lost loved ones themselves, and it sounds sad, but being around someone who's just lost somebody can be difficult to somebody who's dealing with their own grief. So try to not be mad if somebody says the wrong thing, or you feel like they're not acting the way you want them to act, because as long as you are around people that support you and around people that you know love you, they will be doing the best. So please try to just remember that if they're trying to support you but they don't know exactly how to, it's not their fault, because it can be so easy to become angry because you're so angry at the situation, but taking it out on other people is not the right way to go about it. Obviously, if you are lashing out, people tend to understand, but just try to think about it, because you'll end up feeling guilty afterwards. Losing someone is, it's one of those things. People tend to say time is a healer, and that is true to a point. I think the hardest thing about losing someone is that you realise that life does not stand still for anything, and you feel that especially between the time when somebody's passed away and then the funeral, that time it feels like the whole world stood still. It feels like you are just in the same day just for a really long time, if that makes sense. But then everybody else has got their own lives, they've got to get on with their own lives, and that can be difficult. Again, try not to be too angry, because life does continue to move, and eventually you will start moving. Don't push yourself or force yourself to feel don't push yourself too quick. When I went to work, when I lost my mum and I went back to work, I went back too soon, and I ended up having to leave work. Your job will be there, or another. Most businesses, most places have time for bereavement. Make sure you take it. A lot of people say, I don't want to just sit around, and obviously I understand if you're someone that maybe doesn't have many friends or many family members around you. Sometimes going to work can be a distraction, but please make sure that you're ready and don't push yourself, because once you go back and once you press that button and you go back, you can't go backwards and then try to, I don't even know if I'm going to put this out, to be honest, because I want it to be helpful to people, and I understand how difficult it is, and you will get through it. I think that's the main thing. You will get through it, and it might feel right now like life's never going to be the same, and that's true. Life won't be the same because that person's not there, so it can't be the same, but your life will continue. You will make new memories, you will meet new people, you will have new experiences, because that's the way life is. And you because you'll make new experiences, you'll make new memories, you'll meet new people, and you have to remember that that person that's gone would want you to do that. They wouldn't want your life to stop because they're gone. You have to live your life in a way that you think that they would want you to live your life. They would want you to be enjoying yourself. They would want you to be making new memories. And death is one of those things. It's difficult and it's hard, and everybody will experience it in some capacity at some point. Some people more than others, unfortunately, and it is difficult, but you will get through it. Life will move on, and eventually that time that you are stuck in, you will get out of that time. You will continue moving like everybody else. It will be hard, it will hurt, but then slowly you will be able to, they say, like I was trying to say, that they say time is a healer, and that doesn't mean that you will ever be less sad that that person's not there, or that you will ever care less about the fact that that person's not there. It just means that you will be able to get back on that train, and you will be able to put that foot in front of the other. You'll be able to experience those things. You'll be able to enjoy life again, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. And I think that's another thing. You feel as if when someone's first passed away, I think you feel as if you can't laugh or you can't enjoy yourself because it's disrespectful to them. But I think that not enjoying yourself and not living to the fullest would be more disrespectful, because they can't live their life anymore and they won't make any new memories. But that doesn't mean that they would want that for you, because you are still here. You still have a story to live. You still have memories to make. You still have stories to tell, and your life doesn't stop when theirs does, and they wouldn't want that. Especially if it's a parent. All a parent wants you to do is to live your fullest life possible. You know, they've brought you up, and unfortunately they won't always be there to see you growing up. They won't always be there to see all of the memories that you have. I don't know if this has been helpful. Yeah, I don't know if... My biggest tips are, don't make big life decisions within the first 6 to 12 months of losing someone. Don't try to do things just because you think that that is going to make the grief go away. So don't move somewhere just to try and run away from the grief. It won't work. Speak to your doctor, get trauma therapy. Speak to your doctor, get some grief counselling. Remember that not everybody around you is going to know what to say, because there's not a right or wrong thing to say to someone. Well, there's probably a wrong thing to say, but there's not a right thing to... There's nothing that they can say that is going to make the situation better. all they can do is try and be there and support you, and try not to be mad at the world, and don't hold guilt in, don't hold your emotions in. If you are angry, be angry. If you are sad, be sad. Don't try and just push it all down and hope that it'll go away, because it won't. It will stay there and eventually it will erupt. And just try to live your life in the way that you would want them to see you live in your life. Do the things that you would have done, maybe even do them, live better, and just reach out if you need help, reach out if you need support, and don't feel like a burden. That is a big one. You are not a burden because you've lost someone. You are not a problem. You are not annoying anybody because of how you're feeling. Make sure that when you go back to work, you're going back when you're ready and not just because you think that you should. And also, don't compare how you react to how somebody else reacts in grief. Everybody's grief is different. If you spend 6 months thinking that you're completely fine and acting normal, then that's how you've dealt with it. If you spend 6 months crying and really struggling, again, that is fine. It's completely normal. If you spend 2 months laughing and joking and then all of a sudden everything hits you and you fall apart, that is normal. Everybody's experience of grief is normal. Nobody's experience of grief will be the same. Don't let anybody tell you any different, and don't make yourself feel bad because of the way you've reacted. Yes, I don't know if this is helpful. I was kind of just rambling. Let me know if it's helpful. If you personally have lost someone and you want someone to speak to about it, you can get in touch with me. That's absolutely fine. I will leave my social media handle on the screen and you can comment below, but obviously I understand if you don't want to comment. It's quite a personal issue, but you can get in touch with me. I'm on Instagram, you can DM me over there, or you can email me. My email will be below. And yeah, so if you would like to subscribe to my channel, I promise not all of my videos are like this. I do a lot of mental health videos and I do some lifestyle videos as well. And if you could give this video a thumbs up, which sounds a bit weird given the topic, but it'll help the video get out there to other people that might potentially need it. And if you could share it as well, if you've got anybody that you think might need to hear this. Yeah, that's everything for now. And I hope that wherever that you are, you're having a lovely morning, day or night. And I will see you again next time for a more upbeat video. Bye.